Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another in-depth discussion with stuff involving the MCU. Before we get back into the world of Hawkeye, we are taking a quick break and jumping back into New York. I think it's around Christmas time, too. There's some weird timeline stuff. I don't know if it's before or after Hawkeye. It might be before, but we're talking Spider-Man No Way Home. And once again, I am joined by Zach, who is an expert on the MCU. He's well versed in this stuff, and
Expert. Yeah, right.
I would say probably a bigger Spider-Man fan than me. So pretty much I want to bring up, like, before we actually talk about the film, what is your connection to the character of Spider-Man?
So my first time I ever remember seeing Spider-Man, it would have been watching that old Spider-Man, that 70s TV show now in Technicolor. It was watching that.
Really?
So it would come on Teletoon in the mornings on.
Not the cartoon?
Yeah, the cartoon one.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
It would come on Teletoon in the mornings every Saturday and Sunday, and I'd just be watching that. So, like, that's not the best interpretation of the character, but it was a good introduction to, like, Spider-Man. You get to see some guy in a red suit, nice spandex, slinging around, shooting webs, catching people, being a generally good guy. So that's like kind of my first foray into the character.
Yeah.
And then after that, it would have been the Sam Raimi movies, which
naturally. Do you like them? We haven't like really gone in depth on the Raimi stuff before, but are you like a fan?
I think they deserve their own special place. I think they kind of pioneered the Marvel movies. They kind of did their own thing right off the bat when nobody else was really doing it. There weren't too many superhero movies around that time. So they kind of had to pave the way for the MCU.
It definitely did. Right down. I think Kevin Feige was a producer on some of those too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, he was. I think he was for all of them. He was a producer.
He did the X-Men. I know he did the X-Men.
And he was also on for Fantastic Four, I think, too.
Yeah.
He was in it for the original ones and for that reboot that they did. That was, it was something.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So would you say Spider-Man is like a top tier character for you? Is it
Spider-Man's probably my favorite?
Yeah.
Spider-Man's up there for me.
Okay. So with that, Tom Holland and his introduction to the MCU, all that stuff, do you like his Spider-Man? Because I got thoughts on it, and I'll let you go for your first.
Oh, I know your thoughts on it. There's some things I wish they change, but everything overall, I thoroughly enjoy Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He's that young kid who it's still believable he's in high school. It's not like looking at Tobey Maguire and being like, that man's 30 years old.
Even Garfield looked old.
but Garfield was like, you could pass a Garfield in high school, maybe.
Yeah, I guess.
There's no shot for Tobey. He's a narc.
No.
So I do like that aspect where like he is still a kid. And it definitely shows. And I think the Uncle Ben thing, I know that you've said stuff about that before that you're not a fan of. I agree with that entirely. I would have preferred that they had an Uncle Ben instead of a Tony Stark. Because as much as I liked their interaction, I definitely would have liked an Uncle Ben being there and giving him his great speech and being that kind of beacon of hope when everything was feeling down for little Pete.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you know how I already feel. I've kind of talked about it on the channel. I didn't talk about it a lot, but if I were to rank every MCU film, my least favorite are Far From Home and Homecoming. I know that's a lot, but I know what Spider-Man means to some people, and I've literally never had that connection. Even when I was like a child, it was the Hulk, it was the Thing, and it was the Human Torch. Like those were the guys that like just, you're overly aggressive, angry, cocky guys. That I don't know why I just gravitated to that.
The testosterone fueled
testosterone, yeah. And then Tom Holland, I think, is a fine actor. He's a pretty decent guy. And I just think Civil War, I was like, okay, yeah, I get what they're doing here. He's young. He is still coming into himself. And then when he got his own movies, I was just like, I don't like the interpretation. I don't think it's Iron Man Jr. I just think there is this certain like prestigiousness to it where he is just connected intrinsically to everything Tony Stark does, where he can never really escape that. All his villains came from that part of him where it's like, okay, they worked for Tony did something to mess them up, that they came from that. And that kind of bothered me. And then his high schoolness, if he just felt too, and it might be weird, he just felt too like connected to the group and not really like the outsider that he should represent. I know like even Maguire and like Garfield, they weren't really like the outsider, but they still weren't like loved by everyone. But aside from Flash calling him Penis Parker, everybody was just kind of fine with Peter there. And I just,
that was a good one.
Yeah, just sometimes I just felt like they could have steered more in the direction of what I want Peter to be or what I think he should represent, which is like the working class everyman.
Yeah.
But I will say, after seeing No Way Home, they really went for that. So No Way Home, we both saw it. What are your initial thoughts on No Way Home?
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was probably one of the best Marvel movies that's come out since Endgame.
That's like 2 years.
I know your thoughts on that. But yeah, we did have a big lull, but I think it's probably the best Spider-Man film that we've gotten yet.
Not Into the Spider-Verse?
Live action Spider-Man, because Into the Spider-Verse is pretty good. I really liked Into the Spider-Verse. But if we're talking live action here, I think it probably is the best Spider-Man movie we've gotten.
I can't disagree. I won't say it's my favorite, but I think it is very, very good and very well done.
Do you agree with the people that say that it's like an end game level event now?
Oh, I do, mainly because of the two things. The hype around it was built up, I think, more than Endgame, just because Endgame, we knew they were coming back. We were still, it's kind of like in that season of Game of Thrones when Jon Snow died. It was like, will he come back to life? Is he dead? What's that going to be? It's like, is Toby going to show up? Is Andrew going to show up? It had that to it. Just like that cultural significance that, yes, Endgame had that, but it just never, had everybody like speculating and everybody leaking things that were real or not. And I think because of that, it is that level. It is an event film.
Yeah, I entirely agree.
Which it was probably going to be that anyways, because Spider-Man next to Batman probably makes the most money from any of his film outings. So it's going to happen either way.
Well, he's got the third highest first weekend viewing of all time now.
Yeah, and that's like, it was Infinity War and Endgame that beat it, right?
Endgame was the top. He got 253 mil, I think.
2 movies he's also in.
Yeah, so he's going to be up there.
It made sense. So, I mean, I did like the film. I have nothing negative to say about it, really. Like, I wanted to do like something for this video. I was going to be like, okay, I'm going to make a list of 10 things I liked about it and 10 things I didn't. But after I watched the film and I sat down, I'm like, I really have no criticisms or things that I didn't like done. Personally, there's choices I wouldn't have made, but I can't say it was like poorly made or executed bad. I just think it is well done, and the people that it's for are going to love it. And it's a great way to maybe bring a new generation into previous Spider-Man.
All I'm going to say is you're giving it pretty high praise for a film that you gave a 7 out of 10.
It is a 7 out of 10. I mean, because when I look at reviews, and especially on like a scale of 10, I'm like 8 and above to me is like close to perfect. It might just be because I saw it so recently. I can't say it's perfect, especially in this genre when things can be so contrived and played out. So I'm just like, and maybe it might be just because like there's some fan servicey nostalgia weaponizing moments that just don't interest me in it, but that might be why I gave it a 7. But it is
some of those moments were pretty good. I'm somewhat of a scientist myself.
That is a good moment. It worked and it was fine. All right, yeah.
But okay, when all 3 of the Spider-Man finally started working together and they were all hooping and hollering, flying around the Statue of Liberty, that
was sick.
That might be my favorite MCU moment of all time.
That was impressive.
That might be beating Captain America picking up Mjolnir.
I can see that, especially if you're a Spider-Man guy. That's just like everything coming together, and that's very cool. I do like that moment, and I'm just gonna beat around the bush here. Like, spoilers, obviously, we know they're back. It's literally been leaked since it happened. You can't scroll through TikTok without it appearing. I do scroll through TikTok, so I see it all the time. And yes, they're back. And I will honestly say they were handled better than I thought, because I went in thinking it's going to be nostalgia driven. They're just going to call out moments from their other movies, but my God, if Andrew Garfield didn't put his heart and soul into that performance.
Okay, that's got to be one of the best delivered lines in any Spider-Man movie of all time.
Which
when he
one?
just goes, and at some point I just stopped pulling my punches. Like,
that's interesting, right?
he can punch through people.
I
There's
think
no doubt.
Yeah, it's very interesting because at the end of his last movie, he kind of like learns his lesson. So at some point after that, he had to be like, I'm still broken, which is very fascinating.
Lost hope.
That's very fascinating. I will say I am a Tobey Maguire guy, and just he looked kind of tired, and he didn't really do much of the quips, but that's his Spider-Man, just a kind of just like mellow dude. And I did like the moments where it's like, I was on the Avengers. Great. What is that? That was funny.
You were in a band? that one got me.
Matt,
I think every single one of the jokes inside of that movie pretty much landed. You'd said it inside of your review, and I was in awe because usually it's like, I'd say solid 75% of MCU jokes land. Like, usually they're not too bad on it. Some of the movies are better than others, but Spider-Man, it had pretty much a 100%.
That was amazing. Like, even that bit kind of like towards the beginning where all the previous school teachers are like praising Peter, and the one guy's like, you didn't do that. You just built this yourself. The kids didn't build it. And he's like, I'm a conspiracy theorist. Like, even that, which again, like having the teachers as characters, it's not always funny, but that was a good bit. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So I guess we should say the movie does open up with the very end of Far From Home, where his identity is revealed. And the basic plot of this film is him trying to put that genie back in the bottle. Now, picking up where we left off in Far From Home, how did you like the first 20 minutes of this film? Like, did it flow well? Was it needed?
First 20 minutes of this film, I thought it was like a nice little break, because we knew we were getting some solid action later. And so it was just kind of getting a little more introspection into Peter's life, everything that's going on, how he would be dealing with this kind of thing, which I think is definitely important for a movie like this. Because going into it, I was worried they were just going to completely glance over, because I'd read all the leaks. I had a general idea about what it was going to be going into it.
Yeah.
And I was worried that they were just going to entirely forget Far From Home and not even like talk about it. Just be like, oh yeah, everybody knows Peter Parker, Spider-Man. That's that. Here we go. Like, here's all three Spider-Men. That's our movie. Enjoy it.
Yeah. I think they did a pretty good job of balancing that, but you definitely feel like towards like the scene with the gratuitous cameo of Charlie Cox, it's like, okay, he's not on trial for murder anymore. Let's move on, which I like Charlie Cox being in there.
That was amazing.
It was a great gist. Did your theater also have like a silent, like, oh shit, it's this guy? Because my theater was like,
theater cheered.
Okay.
The second they saw those red glasses on him, I heard a couple of hoops and hollers.
Yeah. It's a good reveal. The same week, Kingpin's revealed on Hawkeye.
Yeah.
That is Kinsmit.
Who else are we getting? I want to know who all's back.
You'd have to imagine, like, okay, Shang-Chi's getting a sequel.
Iron
Fist. I'm just, maybe that could be in there. Jessica Jones and She-Hulk.
Jessica Jones should be in She-Hulk. I would very much like
see that. They're saying that Charlie Cox is going to be in She-Hulk, which
maybe get a Punisher and Midnight Suns that's coming out soon.
I could see that. See, a little tangent here, just go off the sidelines. Everyone has been like saying that Moon Knight and Blade is going to lead into the Midnight Suns. Midnight Suns had one comic book in the 90s, and I think Blade was on the team maybe, but it was just like Morbius, a shitty Ghost Rider, some other stupid demon people. Like, these characters that they're saying is going to lead into the Midnight Suns have no introduction to the Midnight Suns whatsoever. So,
but some of Marvel's best properties that they've come out with in the past couple of years have been teams like that. Like, look at Guardians of the Galaxy, look at Eternals.
I'm not saying it won't happen, but history.
So I don't know. At this point, any Marvel movie that comes out, I'm giving it a chance and I'm going in there with an open mind.
Yeah, there's really nothing that they've announced or could announce that'd be like, well, I'm not going to give this a chance. I'm not super excited for the Marvels, but I'm still going to
see it day one.
I like Kamala a lot, and she's a character I can't wait to talk about more. So that'll be cool. But yeah, so Charlie Cox, a good reveal, not overused at all, just quietly shows up as he
nice
should.
Little cameo.
Yep. And you'd have to imagine he's having a great week.
Do you think we'll get to see him on Wednesday? What do you think about that?
Oh, that's interesting. I think if we were going to see anybody on Wednesday, it's going to be Foggy or Karen. Now, I don't think we're going to see either of them, but if we were, it would be one of those two, because I don't think it's going to be Charlie.
I can see that. I can see that.
So as this story kind of progresses, Peter is dealing with like this idea of like, okay, so my literal world is shaken up because everyone knows me. I do like the reason he wants to kind of revert it is because he wants Ned and MJ to be able to get into MIT. That is a very, it's very Spider-Man. He's just like, I sacrificing myself for these people. I do think that worked really well. And that's kind of what I feel was missing from other interpretations of Holland Spider-Man. Just that selflessness.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It was a lot more of it being all about him with the glasses with against Mysterio, all that kind of stuff. Him giving the glasses away though, that was all right. But like, I get what you're saying for sure.
Yeah, and you know, another thing I wanted to talk about this because I brought it up in my review too. This film to me plays out a lot like an apology tour, where it's Sony specifically saying, we really screwed the pooch more than once when we gave our people their final movie. We've kind of like maybe threw too many people in and we messed up. So we're going to let these people that we've wronged in these roles come back and try something new. Because as we learn when he talks to Doctor Strange, the reason these villains are coming in is because everybody who knew Peter Parker's identity before that event is being drawn to him, which, okay, how do you feel about the reintroduction to all of these villains from previous movies?
I was worried about it at first. When we first saw it in the trailer, I thought it was just going to be no explanation. They're just there, and then they're going to go into it later on.
Yeah.
So when we got into the movie and I actually saw that we got an explanation, it made sense. I was a lot happier with it, just because I'm a sucker for the sacred canon of the Marvel universe. I think that it's pretty much anything that Kevin Feige touches turns to gold.
So far.
So when they start bringing in stuff that he didn't have as much say in, it kind of worries me that it can muddle up the universe a little bit, and you'll get way more plot holes, things that don't make sense and stuff like that. But the way that they did it for this, I think they did it right. Like, they came in, did their little bit in the movie, then they just jumped right back to their own universes.
Yeah, it's the best they could have done it, honestly. Yeah. I don't know any way I would have done it differently. It's like, they're here. What do you do with them? Well, you just have them opposed there. And it's also a really cool idea to have Peter try to save them from dying in their respective timelines, which again is the great power comes great responsibility thing, which we were talking off screen a little bit. You said, because you saw it before me, there was going to be one scene I would despise. And I was curious what that was going in. Could you tell these people what you thought the scene was I was going to despise?
I thought you were going to hate the Aunt May reveal when she gave Peter this speech saying, with great power comes great responsibility. And I really thought you weren't going to like that one.
Like, I'm an Uncle Ben guy, but
huge Uncle Ben guy.
This is his Uncle Ben. May has always, I don't want to say, okay, maybe not always, but she has been there in the supporting role for a bit. And if we're not doing anything with Uncle Ben, just a reference here and there, having May be the character that dies and has that speech for him learning the consequences of his actions, it works really well for me, especially when you put that next to what Garfield and Maguire went through with their Uncle Bens. I think that works pretty well. So I understand why you think I would dislike that, but I didn't hate it because Marissa Tomei actually got something to do for once, which, yeah, that's something there. Oh man. I know she's talked about how taking this role affected other acting roles she got because now she was perceived
typecast,
as like the motherly parental figure, and that sucks. But
she got a nice payday from it.
Yeah. Put her in a John Wick or something. Let her kick some ass somewhere.
Yeah.
So we did get like 5 villains returning. Let's talk about them a little bit. Alfred Molina is back as Doc Ock. What do you think? How did he do?
The only thing I thought that was kind of weird about it was when the nanobots started taking over his arms. I thought that was like, there wasn't really an explanation for that. And I was kind of iffy on that one.
Yeah.
It worked out in the end.
Yeah.
It led to some pretty funny moments.
Yeah, he did great.
Okay.
He was really fun.
Him, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but Willem Dafoe, they stole the show in this movie.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I kind of like how towards the end of the film, Alfred has the moment with Maguire where they're just catching up,
Yeah.
because he was kind of reverting back to the good self at the end. And if they got the version of him where the arms were still in control, it makes sense he'd be good towards the end. So him showing up at that final battle, not really fighting them, but just more like, I'm going to be the one that does whatever is about to happen, I think works for the character. And I really enjoyed it. I like Alfred Molina. I think Dr. Octopus is the arch nemesis of Spider-Man. That's his Joker. I will stand
Yeah.
by that forever.
No, I agree with you on that one.
And you said it already. Willem Dafoe is back as Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. And this guy, since day one of anything he's been in, like Boondock Saints and onward, this guy has just never phoned it in once. He has just presented a fantastic performance at every turn. And this was no exception. It was honestly amazing that after 20 years, he can still do this with Norman. And they ditched the mask right away.
I thought that was great. I love
perfect.
that.
Yeah. Because he's angry. He has that face. Let him do that. And it was great. Was there any moments with him that like stuck out for you? It was like, this was amazing.
That one line, I'm trying to think of what it was when he was going through right before Aunt May died. I'm trying to think what he said. It was something along the lines of strong enough to have everything in the world, but not powerful enough to take it.
Yeah. Okay. And it was, I know what the scene you mean.
That exact line, or that line there, I thought that was great. I thought that was his really delivery on it was amazing. Just the line itself worked so good there. And especially with what it led into, I thought that was good.
Yeah. I think I really like the scene where Peter's like spider sense kicks in and everybody's watching him in the room, and it slowly just looks over to Willem Dafoe, and then the grin just comes on its face. Yeah. I'm like, that is perfect. That's exactly what that needed to be. It was so cool. And I've just like the end fight. Well, no, not the end fight. The fight where before Aunt May dies, when they're just bashing each other through the building. That was just perfect. And the fact that Dafoe was doing all his own stunts is even more impressive.
He did all his own stunts. How old is he now?
He's 66. He said he's only coming back if he gets to do his own stunts. I'm like, dude,
that man is a trooper.
Legend. Just an absolute legend.
Okay, you mentioned Spidey sense real quick, and I'm going to cut you off here. But like, how good was that scene when he went into the astral form and you could see the spider sense going above his head?
I was like, that. I thought smart. That was great. That's awesome. I like that he was able to come back to his body too. He just starts swimming to it. It worked. I guess that could lead into this. How did you think Doctor Strange was handled in this? Because I thought it was really good.
I was gonna agree. I really can't complain. I thought he had just enough to do. I thought he was a nice little addition, right? Like, it's not a Doctor Strange movie. I think they had a little too much Iron Man inside of the first and Homecoming. Yeah, I definitely thought that. And I think they learned from that mistake. Yeah. I think they learned from their mistake there and they kind of toned it back. So he was in the first little bit to kind of set everything up. And then he came back for the last little bit as a nice little finishing touch for the movie.
Yeah.
Which I thought it was great. That's how it should be in the MCU, because you're not going to get everybody fighting alongside each other all the time. You're going to get certain heroes going to other certain heroes who can do things that they can't. And they're not going to be sticking around for the entire time. They got their own stuff they got to do.
Well, he does kind of like trap him in the mirror dimension, which that was awesome.
That was just amazing.
Like, what's better than just, science, math, or not magic, math. That was great.
I thought, okay, if Spider-Man was going to beat Doctor Strange, that's how I would have wanted it to go down. It's something along those lines. Because he can't beat him out in just a raw hand-to-hand combat. We saw that when he first tried at the start.
It was great.
When he actually used his brain and he was able to figure it out and he realized what was going on.
Trigonometry.
I thought that was great.
That was really cool.
I really did.
Do you have any thoughts on Wang being the Sorcerer Supreme on a technicality?
I think that's more thrown in for a joke.
Yeah.
But I do like it. I like it a lot because that means Doctor Strange is free to go out and do a lot more things. That means Multiverse of Madness. He's not going to get called back and have to go back to Sanctum Sanctorum and have to deal with a little bit of bullshit before he goes back out and saves the multiverse again. Because now he's got Wong to do all that stuff, so he can go out and he can be his hero.
You know what I think it means? I was just thinking about this. It means because Wang is technically the Sorcerer Supreme. Come Multiverse of Madness, he's gonna die and it's gonna go to Steven.
No,
I
they
think
better
so.
not.
Wong's great. He is
Wong is one of my favorite characters in the MCU.
He's great. Like he's fantastic. But if we're talking about the stakes of the multiverse, you gotta kill the Sorcerer Supreme and show it's like the Aunt May thing.
But they better not. I will be so salty.
Right? You never know.
Then Ned takes over.
Could you imagine? Can you imagine? Oh man,
Ned becomes a new apprentice.
Like, I mean, I have to imagine eventually they're gonna lead to Ned becoming the Hobgoblin. That's perfect poetry. Maybe a magic Hobgoblin.
Oh, that'd actually be pretty good.
Like instead of like, yeah, because Norman's is all about science. Maybe this Hobgoblin uses magic as like his weaponry.
Because they kind of like teased it a little bit, which made me think that they're not really going to.
Yeah,
because they
mentioned it was a joke.
Yeah, and that kind of put me off. But I'd be down for that, a magic Hobgoblin.
I'd see that. I think it's something new to do, and I mean,
yeah.
I think at some point we'll have to come back and talk about like our hopes for the next trilogy because I imagine we're going to get there. But when it comes to Doctor Strange, I really like that they're keeping him arrogant because I think that is really important. He shouldn't be the supportive father eventually like Tony became. He should just be like, okay, I literally don't have time for this. You're being a nuisance. Let's just get this over with. Okay. That's how he should be. And I like that they kept it that way.
I agree. I think that, like I said earlier, I think that they handled Doctor Strange perfectly in this movie. I think he was in it for the right amount of time. He did the right kind of things. It felt like it was Doctor Strange. Because, right, like that's one of the things that can happen in this many movies is they kind of start to lose the character. So many different directors get their hands on it. So many different people are working on these scripts. And so you just kind of lose the original vision of the character and they start to get muddled up. It happened a lot in Age of Ultron with Joss Whedon. And it was just kind of same as the original Avengers. You had the characters were already all fleshed out in a way. And then they just kind of became more quippy. They became more comic booky. They didn't act like themselves.
I think that's more just Joss Whedon's style. He likes to exemplify one characteristic of a person. And I'm actually a really big fan of Age of Ultron. That's one of my favorite MCU films. So I get what you're saying. That did try to do a lot with everything. But yeah, I like the way they kept things here. I thought that was really good.
And that's what I was getting to is I think that the way that they did it and how they kept him consistent, because he's been in 4 Marvel movies now, 5 maybe. He's had his own. Then he was in Infinity War, Endgame, Thor. And then now, he was in Thor for a little bit.
So that's 5, I think.
Yeah, so he's been in like 5 movies, mostly just cameos. But he had a pretty big part in Infinity War and Endgame, and then his own movie. Yeah. So I think he's probably the most consistent one that they've kept along. Like he's
honestly, yeah.
Which is, I'm happy for that.
It's fine, yeah. Arrogant men don't change that much.
And especially like he's already had most of his character development up to this point.
Yeah,
like they're not really trying to change his character or do any more storylines inside of these other movies. He's just there as a supporting character. He's a static character for it.
Yeah.
So I like that he's just the exact same to everybody the whole time.
Yeah. Speaking of characters that get a change, Jamie Foxx is back. It's Max Dillon. How much of an upgrade is it, and how good of it is just to see Jamie Foxx enjoying himself? I love it.
Not gonna lie, that was probably one of the things I didn't like the most out of the movie.
Oh, interesting.
Because they didn't give an explanation on why he changed.
He came to a new universe. That's it.
Then why did everybody else take
new energy here?
Yeah, but the one thing, we got to go back to Doc Ock for a minute because it's just reminded me when he picked up Tony Stark's reactor and he said,
"Power of the sun,
in the palm of my hand." That was great.
That was awesome.
And then that leads back into Jamie Foxx when he got a hold of it and he became Electro. I love the character design for it. When he was actually going, he was fighting, and you could see the old masks showing up whenever he was shooting his lightning.
That was great.
I enjoyed that a lot. Because like I said, I watched that original 1970 Spider-Man in Technicolor when he was still running around in his green and yellow suit.
Yeah. That suit does look better than the blue blob he was in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
I kind of like that they always joke like, you fell into a vat of eels.
Yeah,
It's like,
I
yeah,
did like that.
it is that stupid what happened to him. That was funny.
Yeah.
I also like the joke where he's like, dude, you're from Brooklyn, you help the poor people, I thought you'd be black. And I was like, yeah,
no,
fair
that
enough.
one was good.
I thought that was clever, but it doesn't go with the thing that he knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Then that doesn't make sense if you didn't know what he was, but whatever, that's just a small criticism.
Tiny little plot hole, doesn't matter.
How do you feel about the return of the Lizard? Because I actually got a bit to say about this.
So I was never a huge fan of the Lizard. I never really had any special connection to him. I thought he was fine.
Yeah.
I thought he didn't have a whole lot to do in this movie.
Yeah, fair.
I thought he was just kind of there to let us know that the rest of Spider-Man were going to be there after he got punched in the trailer by thin air.
Yeah. So, fair enough. So when it comes to just actual like comic book villains for Spider-Man, my two favorite are Kraven the Hunter and the Lizard, just because I love the idea of Kirk Connors experimenting on himself and becoming the Lizard. And I honestly really like what they do with him in The Amazing Spider-Man. I think it works really well. And when he's in here, I will honestly say it's not great, but I do think it's really cool how he's just a cynical bitch, just like, look, you guys could literally try to save us or not save us or whatever. Something bad is going to happen either way. So I'm just going to wait in the truck. And when shit hits the fan, I'm leaving. And I think that is pretty much perfect for what they needed the monster to be.
Yeah.
And they used, I guess, old clips of the actor when he reverts back to human form. Like him and Thomas Hayden Church were actually like on set. So it was cool. I am a fan of the Lizard. I just wish they put a freaking lab coat on him. It's not hard. It's not hard. But speaking of that, that does go into the Sandman, which I actually want to say this. I'm sure you saw in my review. I will stand by this, that Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman, Flint Marko, is the greatest villain we've seen in any Spider-Man movie. In Spider-Man 3, which is not a great film, they give him more development, more characteristics than any other villain we've seen before or after.
Yeah.
And I will stand by that his performance in here was really cool. It wasn't, Molina or Defoe good, but it was very powerful. And I just like, he's like, I'm going to go home to my daughter. I'll try anything.
It built on to what we knew about him before.
Yeah. And it showed that he was kind of a hero, helping Peter at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I think because that was like his main thing, is that he didn't want to be a bad guy, but he just was out of options. He had to make sure his daughter got her medicine. He wanted to go back and see her. That was the original plot for that one, right?
I think so. He was trying to do something for his daughter.
He was trying to get money for his daughter's medicine. I think it was something like
I haven't seen it in 10 years.
Yeah,
so I don't remember. But I do like that. And there was honestly a brief second we're watching that. I'm like, oh, they could do a variant or a version of Flint Marko where he's a hero and he's on the Avengers, because Sandman was on the Avengers for a minute. And I'm like, that could be a really interesting thing to play with.
Everybody's been on the Avengers for a minute, Taryn.
Not Cyclops.
Wait, actually?
Not Cyclops. His brother led the team for a bit, but Cyclops has never been a member.
Huh.
Yeah. So, he won't in the movies. There you go.
That's going to be the first time, though. First time he's an Avenger?
I don't know. I imagine in their back pocket is the Avengers versus X-Men movie.
Oh, it's got to be.
It's somewhere. They're just waiting for that.
Yeah, Kevin Feige's just salivating right now with the thought of it.
Yeah, if they play their cards right, literally they could make X-Men movies coexist as like its own genre next to the rest of the MCU.
Yep, 100%.
Which I think they'll get to. But that's a topic for another day. We're talking No Way Home, and I kind of like the way the end battle went when it was like all said and done. Do you think the end battle was top tier superhero fighting, or where would you put it?
I think I wouldn't quite put it top tier superhero fighting, but it's definitely really high on there, and it's better for other reasons. It's better because I got the characterization of all the villains right. Yep. It's better because I got the characterization of all the Spider-Men right.
Yep.
It was just a beautiful thing. It was something that nobody ever thought we'd get to see. Like, Darren, if I told you 15 years ago that this movie was going to happen, what would you say to me?
15 years ago would be 2000 what? I can't remember. 2004?
2006?
Six. So Spider-Man 3 wouldn't have come out yet. I wouldn't believe you. And I think you could literally say that about anything, because I wouldn't even believe they made an Iron Man movie, because it's ridiculous. Like back then, and I just because the success of Blade kind of made things differently, but back then it's like you could only do Spider-Man. That's your only character of relevance.
Yeah.
But the fact that 15 years later we could have a movie with 3 of them and they're all working together and they're fighting the villains from their respective franchises together, that's very impressive, regardless of what we've seen before. And I guess that's really cool. And it is an emotional payoff because they all have their individual moments. They all help their villains, which is really cool to see. And how do you feel? Because I kind of got some hiccups of this, like the battle towards the end, where it's Tom Holland just kind of like beating the shit out of Willem Dafoe and he's about to kill him. How do you feel about that? Because I didn't like it that much.
I completely understood it.
Yeah.
Now, did I like that it was one of the other Spider-Men that stopped him? No.
Really?
I think if they were going to do it, it should have been Peter holding it up, about to slam it down on him and kill him, but then stopping 2 inches short and realizing he can't do it.
I like that it was Maguire that stopped him, because I think that's like, imagine the shit that he went through fighting this Green Goblin. And it's like, no, we can't kill them. Look, I know what happens when Norman dies and he should live. I thought that was interesting. What I didn't like is that narratively, he already had the resolution for wanting to kill Norman when he'd already talked to the other Spider-Men. So it almost came out of nowhere, this aggression that doesn't really fit into what we already saw. I mean, that's what bothered me.
I still kind of understood it, because it's like,
I get it.
Imagine that, like pretty much your mother, if somebody were to come up and kill her, like,
yeah, I get it.
You'd be a little fired up.
I know why they did it, and I'm fine with it. I'm just like, if it was maybe the beginning of the fight, or if he did that scene, he had those moments, and that was the reveal of Tobey Maguire showing up. Like we have the scene where Ned's doing the ring, and then he's about to kill Norman, and then Tobey stops him. Maybe it'd have more weight there. But I just think because, okay, he already had the emotional confrontation with the other Spider-Men.
Yeah.
He dealt with things with, MJ and Ned. Now it's like, we literally saved everybody else. Why are we not saving this one? Which I know it's like, even the worst have to live. It's the Batman Joker thing all over again, but it just felt off to me, which is not a bad thing. And it's okay. Honestly, it's just, again, it's one of those nitpicky things where I'm like, okay, well, why would Max Dillon know he's Peter Parker if he didn't know he was white? And, just those kind of things, but it's fine. I do want to ask you this though. How do you feel off screen? I don't want to talk about off screen, but on screen, how do you feel about the chemistry between Tom Holland and Zendaya? Because I think on screen it's bad.
You think it's that bad?
I
thought there's some moments where it's noticeable, but I think it was kind of meant to be that way. Because they're kind of trying to
kids.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do. Is this Pete's first girlfriend, really? And so he's a little more awkward. He's a little, doesn't help that Ned's always coming in to break him up all the time whenever they're having a nice moment. And I that doesn't really get me. I think that's more of like a stylistic choice more than anything else.
Fair. I mean, this MJ has always been weird to me. I think because they seriously in Homecoming wanted to be like, she's the outsider kid who's a little more punk and grungy, and then it's like she just becomes the one that likes Peter. And maybe you feel differently, but I think in No Way Home she really didn't do anything but be the girl.
Oh no, I completely agree with that, which is really unfortunate because I'm a fan of Zendaya in these movies.
Yeah.
Usually I'm kind of like iffy when they change up characters that I have a personal connection to, like Mary Jane, which she's not technically Mary Jane.
They do call her a Watson, though. They do say, MJ Watson.
But I really didn't mind the changes with Zendaya. I thought that in the first one, in Homecoming, that she was just kind of there.
Yeah,
she's kind of there.
They
for
were
some
building up
relief.
to her. Yeah,
like you knew she was going to be important in a couple of years for a couple different movies. And then Far From Home, I like that they let her figure it out, and that she came to the conclusion. So I wouldn't quite say she's just the girl in it.
In this one, I think.
In this one,
yeah, and not in like, I think in Far From Home she had a lot more to do.
Yeah,
but in this one, it was just like, man, Peter, this is a lot to deal with. But she's like, it's kind of a relief, which is enough characterization for her. Then it just became side character, this is a kissing moment in the end, which was fine. And I guess maybe if they fully developed their relationship more like they were, maybe more intimate, or they just showed the chemistry better, him saying his goodbyes would have had more impact. But as far as it went, the goodbye scene worked for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was everything it needed to be. I think they didn't go too crazy on it. I think it seemed realistic. Like if I were in their position, that would kind of be what I'd do as well.
Yeah. So we should say the end of the film, it's all about Peter trying to put the identity back in the bottle. Things go awry. He fights everybody from every universe ever. He makes the ultimate choice to be forgotten. And in that scene, the one thing I really liked is the way that Steven just quietly says, when you do this, the people who love you, but instead he says, we who love you, saying that he does love Peter. And I'm like, that is a very good character moment. And I do think that's exactly what it needed to be. I really liked that. And he does say goodbye to everybody. And did you like the goodbyes to like Ned and the other Spider-Man and Zendaya? Did you think those were good?
I did. I actually really liked that closing scene. I thought it tugged on all the right heartstrings. I thought that it was really just how you'd want them to say goodbye, especially like if you hadn't seen the rest of the movie yet and you thought that they were just going to meet up again soon. And you thought that Peter was just going to go right back in there and be like, hey, I'm your boyfriend. Nice to meet you.
That was that end scene was really good. So everyone forgets him. He's going to the donut shop where she works, and he's seeing that they are happy and they're fine on their own. I thought that was powerful. And again, that is a Peter Parker thing where he's just, I did this, I made the sacrifice, I lost people because of it, but I can start anew. And I might get hate for this, but I've always said there are 3 characters in the Marvel universe who should never catch a break. One of them is Scott Lang. One of them is Johnny Storm. The other one is Peter Parker. Those 3 guys should always one foot in the wrong direction. They do one thing, something bad happens to them. And I think Peter making that choice and seeing that MJ can go on without him is a very powerful moment. And I just love that end where he gets his own apartment. He doesn't have any money. He needs to get his graduated GED again. So he's starting off again. I think that's really cool.
J. Jonah Jameson. He still remembers that Spider-Man he doesn't like him.
That's
we
good.
got to see that. So maybe we actually will get that when he's taking photos for him.
Do you think anybody? Oh, I didn't even think about him working at the Daily Bugle.
And do
you think anybody would remember him? Do you think there'd be like some secret somewhere that I was watching some videos, listening to some stuff. Some people were like, maybe Daredevil will remember because he'll like recognize the heartbeat or something. He's like, that sounds familiar.
I can see that.
Peter Parker?
But the one thing I want to know is how do they manage to delete everything off the internet?
It's magic. Who cares? Don't worry about it. He fought a big lizard.
You know what? Okay. Yeah, that works for me. I'll stick with that.
Yeah. And speaking of that, man, J.K. Simmons, holy shit.
Man.
Just, again, like Defoe, knows exactly what to do. Just perfectly that Alex Jones angry where he's just like, the frogs are gay. Everyone's angry. Look at me.
Chemtrails are turning the frogs gay. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. I love him. One of my favorite movies that he's in is Whiplash.
I love Whiplash.
It's such a good movie. He's so good in it.
That's why he's back. That's why he's back in everything, is because of Whiplash.
Man, there's a reason he's been cast again as J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
He's
perfect. He's so perfect. And this interpretation of JJJ is just the right type of aggressive for a 2021 audience.
Yeah.
He is just like, I love when you see like the evolution of his setup. He's got like a green screen in the back of just like a basement, and then he builds up an empire from there. We also see that Betty Brant is working for him.
Yeah.
Who's a student that went to school with Peter. I'm like, that's cool because she did in the books. And she also married Ned Lead in the comics and then died. So that's another route they could take. Maybe those two will come back again.
That's if we do get to see Ned and Spider-Man again.
Interesting.
Do you think they'll be back?
Okay. So I actually want to save that for another topic because I want to talk about like that. But I will say, if we're getting another trilogy, I don't think we're going to see MJ and Ned back. I think we'd see people like Gwen, like Carly Cooper, maybe. I think Flash will return. I think they'll build up the relationship between him and Flash more. And I think Harry, we have to show Harry at some point. They say Oscorp's not like a company in the MCU, but that doesn't mean Norman Osborn doesn't exist.
So they're kind of going for a full clean slate. And we know that the Fantastic Four movies are coming out soon. How would you feel about a little bit of a Human Torch? Because they have some strong interactions in the comics.
Look, you could see right here, I have my Spider-Man and his amazing friend set up. I would love to see them do like Angelica Jones and Bobby Drake more than the Human Torch, but since John Watts is directing Fantastic Four, I have to imagine it's going to be Johnny.
Would you like to see Spider-Man in a Fantastic Four movie?
Yeah, absolutely. He is the unofficial fifth member. He is. And I think at some point we're going to see that. I think would like it more if they cameoed in his movie where he has like a serious problem. And then he's like, I'm just going to go to the Baxter building and yell at Reed to tell me why I have 6 arms. Like, what's going on? I think that'd be cool. And again, watching this film, I completely understand why you get John Watts to do Fantastic Four, because if you capture this energy, like the certain type of nostalgia, the over-the-top science fiction with the purity in the heart that it has, that's exactly what that film needs. And I think that's a great choice.
Think we're going to get to see Chris Evans?
Interesting.
Reprise his role as a Human Torch for a little bit.
I think they're going to recast all of the main members.
I hope
so. There's some leaks going. There's some supposed leaks going around of who is going to be in it. I've always said my choice for Reed and Sue is Matthew Rhys and Kerry Russell from The Americans, just because they're an off-screen couple and they have great chemistry and have that presence.
Yeah.
But this leak is saying, and I want to get your opinion on this, how do you feel about Seth Rogen as the Thing?
I'm going to have to let that one marinate for a little bit.
It's interesting. I understand the logic, but is that voice a little too stoner and not enough rock, you know?
Has he really done much voice acting?
No, but he's going to be Donkey Kong. I guess he was in the Kung
Chris
Fu
Pratt
Pandas.
as Mario.
Yeah. It's weird, right?
So there's some people, it's like Brad Pitt's Rocket Raccoon, isn't he?
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper. That's who it is. So like Bradley Cooper, if you heard Rocket, you wouldn't know that that's Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Right. So I think if they can kind of harness that and he can figure that out and kind of change it up just enough that it's a little more gruff. It's a little lower. It's not quite like a,
yeah. I get the choice.
That,
a Jewish actor for the Thing makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that they'd go that route. That same leak also said Kristen Bell as Sue Storm, which I can't see it.
Me neither.
And that is
I don't think I've read this leak.
It's weird. Do you know It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yep.
The leak was Glenn Howerton, who plays Dennis, was going to be Reed, which I think is the perfect type of arrogant.
I was going to say,
go with a different cast. It could work.
I think I'd be on board for that. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
He's probably getting to the right age now.
Yeah. He's just got like that schmarmy, arrogant energy that I think an interpretation of Reed could do. Because it's the MCU, I'd imagine their version of Reed's going to be a little more just like the goofy than the asshole.
Yeah.
He's like, look at this weird thing I built. We're stuck in a big bubble floating through nothing. I think that's what we're going to see, which is fine. And if that's the case, then it's going to be
until the third movie, if John Roth directs all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then in the third movie, it's going to slap. But
yeah,
probably for the first 2, we might get that.
I'm really happy that I can actually be excited for a Fantastic Four film, because they're just the little team that never got the big break. You know, every film was just weird and made really weird choices, and they over-sexualized Sue way too much. I think Jessica Alba would be a great Sue Storm if you didn't have her take her clothes off in every scene. Like, we know she could turn invisible. Let's make her take her bra off while she's invisible. It's so weird.
I mean, I get your sense with that one. Yeah.
And I guess kind of getting back to Spider-Man here, I do think we're going to see the Johnny and Peter relationship form, because it's one of the most integral in the comic books. They are just the best, like, sibling rivalry you could get without actually being siblings. Would I love to see the Amazing Friends? Yes. That is a dream I don't think we're ever going to get. Just a joke at some point, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. They've done crazier things.
That's true. We've literally reached the point where I'm like, they could do anything. They made an Eternals film and literally just showed like the Celestials creating the Earth was an egg, and it's like we do that now. I'm like, oh man, anything religion is possible.
That's gone.
Yeah, forget it. Earth was a big egg. We're gonna kill you all to make birth to a Celestial. It's so weird, man. It is such. It's both amazing and very just insane that the MCU has gotten this far and that we've just accepted everything that's coming about it.
And I'm gonna keep on accepting it because nothing's really been felt off to me yet.
No, I think
they've kind of nailed everything so far. Like they've made it in a way that's somewhat believable, if that makes sense. Being
I
Earth and egg,
yeah. I'm starting to think, and I thought Eternals was going to be the testing ground, but that was pretty much just another Marvel movie. I do think the testing ground for what is going to work and what's not is how they handle Moon Knight. And I know I've said that before. Rumors are saying, if these are true, Moon Knight's going to be the next show to come out, probably late February to early March.
Yeah, I've heard that.
If that's the case, I think this is going to be the one where people either go, we have too much of these, or we're getting way too specific that it's really good idea. And I'm kind of worried to see what that balance is going to be. But that's the one to me where I'm like, of course, a Black Panther sequel, of course, an Ant-Man sequel, but doing a Moon Knight television show with no prior introduction to this character is going to be the thing. As much as I love it, it's going to be the thing that's going to just either break or make the future, pretty much. And I think that's just amazing.
Well, I think they kind of tested that with Ant-Man when Ant-Man came out.
Yes, fair enough.
I think that was kind of like their weirdest character up to that point. Yeah, Guardians as well. But like I think as long as they make it good, then people are willing to watch pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to get your guaranteed viewers anyways, just because there's a nice bright red and white logo strapped onto it.
Yep.
So you're going to get people like me and you who are going to be watching it no matter what. And then if it's good, it'll spread from word of mouth from there.
Yeah.
So
that's the hope,
as long as they make it decent and they make it entertaining to watch and they stay true to the character, I think it'll do fine.
Oh man, I cannot wait for us to talk about Moon Knight. I feel like that's going to just be a fantastic conversation, because I'm just going to get this. I've said it before. I'm going to be the most analytical about Moon Knight because I'm going to dig into every little thing. So that's going to be great.
Oh no.
I like it. But let's get back to Spider-Man for a sec, because this film actually has 2 post-credit scenes. And I think they're both really good. Starting off with, we saw it at the end of Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Him and Eddie and Venom went on a vacation, put their toes in the sand for a bit. They got drunk in a hotel room, and suddenly they woke up in the MCU.
So I'm going to be 100% honest.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Let There Be Carnage.
You don't need to. That's all that happens.
That's kind of what I've understood so far.
Yeah, it's so weird because the movie itself plays out like a love story where it's like they're together at the beginning, they start to fight, they break up, they come back together, and they make peace. So the post-credit scene was, they're on a beach. He's like, hey, Eddie, I'm going to show you everything about my people. And then suddenly the room shakes. They're in the MCU. They're looking on a screen. There's Tom Holland being ousted as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And then the post-credit to this, he's at the same bar. He hasn't left. He's just
still
been
drinking.
Just been there the whole time, talking to the bartender. And he's just like, so you have other heroes here? That's weird. Okay. And then he just leaves. He just gets sent back.
And drops a little bit of black goo.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I think it is the funniest thing in the world that Venom is officially in the MCU in 2 post-credit scenes and does nothing, because that is exactly what it should have happened. It's insane.
Do you remember what I said earlier about how I enjoy the sacred canon of the Marvel Universe? I don't quite enjoy that so much.
See, I get why, but I have to say this too. I like a lot of campy shit. So if there's just a random thing that just happens that doesn't affect the main story, it's like a tie-in issue of a comic book where you just strap like the No Way Home logo on top of this issue of Venom, then yes, I'm fine with that. It's just stupid and weird, and I think it worked pretty well.
Yeah, no, I
It's just
can
dumb.
see why people like it, but I think it wouldn't be too hard just to have a little meteorite come down, crash land, and that's that.
I get you.
Why did that symbiote stay? It was a part of the original Venom.
Because he's drunk. Go back. Because he was drunk. You know when you're like taking a piss and like you stop and then a little bit more comes out and then it just like trinkles. That's what's happening there. Okay. Venom was pissing inside of Eddie and a little bit came out.
You know what? I'll believe it.
And I told you too.
Crazier things.
Yeah, I told you too. I think it's going to be Flash Thompson that gets it.
Yeah. No, I see. I really hope they don't do that for the first movie back though.
Oh, it won't be the first one. No, absolutely not.
They got to at least wait for the second or third one, preferably third. Just because the whole point of Venom is it's just supposed to throw Peter's life into a spiraling chaos.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to do. And he's not even supposed to realize it. He's not supposed to realize how much of an asshole he's being to all of his friends and everything like that and all the relationships he's ruining.
Yeah.
So at this point, he doesn't have any relationships. He doesn't have any friends. He doesn't have anybody around him. So they got to take the first movie or the first two movies to build that up. So that way Venom can take it away from him. I think that's definitely important if they want the next one to succeed. And Tom Holland has said in interviews that if he does another Spider-Man movie,
he gets more money.
Then he wants it to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man flick.
Yeah.
And I'm for that because we haven't really got that yet.
No, he's been to space more than he's been on Earth, which is insane.
You're not wrong. Spider-Man in space, who'd have thunk it?
So I could see that. I could see it being like if this was, say, the 60s Ditko era of Spider-Man, this could be moving forward to like the edginess of post-Secret Wars, 80s, 90s version of Spider-Man, where he's in the black suit. He's kind of a little bit more dick to everybody. That also leads us to another character I have up here, Black Cat, who I think is going to be the next love interest.
I mean, hey, I'm here for it. I'm here for whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, the second tickets come out, I'm pre-ordered.
Yeah, I did too. I literally, I don't do it often. I didn't do it for Eternals or Shang-Chi, but I'm like, for this movie, I know I have to get tickets early. Yeah. I got them for 3 separate days. Just in case I couldn't make one of them. I was like, I got to. So I did. So I was able to see it, but I just had to prepare. You get it. You know,
I do get it.
We're these fans. So there's another post-credit scene. It's just a trailer for Multiverse of Madness. Did it look good?
I thought it did.
Yeah.
I really liked that one. I thought that it looked good. The scenes that they chose to portray what it's going to be, I thought it gives off an atmosphere that I'm going to enjoy in that movie. It definitely still seems like they're going for a little bit of that horror with the Sam Raimi directing.
It is Sam Raimi. That's great. I think that's perfect Kinsmit stuff.
And then so like that tentacle monster with the big eye, what is that? Goth or something?
Shumagorath. It's not him. Oh. It's Gargantuos, which is one of the same species. I guess they've confirmed that. I think Shumagorath is the one that we've seen in What If, where it's like the tentacle monster reaching out for Captain Carter and all that. And it's kind of like the bigger, like the, like the alien queen version of the Gargantuos stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's what that's going to be. America Chavez was in there for a second.
Yeah.
Once again,
we got to see that. Yep. We got to see the jacket.
Once again, setting up Young Avengers, which is inevitable. It has been inevitable for this whole time.
I'm excited.
And then we got nobody knows what version of Doctor Strange this is. At the end there, it was like the biggest thing killing the multiverse is you. And that's obviously a red herring. He's probably talking to Mordo or somebody else. Yeah. But I don't think it's the version from What If. And I don't know if you keep up with, because you don't. The line I collect here is Marvel Legends. There was a big Marvel Legends reveal for the new Doctor Strange toys. There was a version called Strange Supreme.
Yep. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, I think this is going to be Sorcerer Supreme Doctor Strange.
from another multiverse. Okay. But he definitely had that eye makeup on though, didn't he?
I think so, but
It looked
again,
like it.
I the suit that they are using, I also have up here. That's the suit that they're going off of, and that is after he loses his sorcerer supreme power, just becomes like a normal guy. But if they're doing the reverse, I do think that's an alternate universe. That's not the what if one that is coming. He could be evil because of course, I have to imagine they're going to do an evil Doctor Strange in there.
Oh yeah,
it'd be a waste of time if you didn't. Now, this film, what is like one cameo you're expecting and one that you hope they don't do?
One cameo that I am expecting, Captain Carter.
Yeah.
I think almost for sure she's going to be in there at least for a little bit, and I'm for it. Yeah. I want to see that so bad.
That'd be great. She's getting her own comic book now too, so they are pushing that character.
Because I think, especially if they bring it back to the main MCU timeline, the sacred timeline, I think that it's great. They're already setting up some other British heroes, as we saw in Eternals.
True.
So we might be getting another little British team coming up here soon.
A version of Excalibur, maybe?
I'd be here for it. Like for everything Marvel does.
Yeah. There was the team called the Union that came out this year too, which was a bunch of different characters from like the, British Union and all that. That was a fun book, but it was none of the characters. They were all new characters, so we're not going to see them.
Yeah.
But what's one that you'd be like, oh, please don't do this?
Professor X.
Oh, me too.
I think they've already explored those characters as much as they can. We've got to see the start of the characters. We've got to see the complete end of the characters. I really don't want them to bring in any of the Fox X-Men.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of those movies, they were decent, and maybe they hold some sentimental value to some people, but I don't feel the same connections to those movies as I felt with the original Spider-Man. Like, I'm not going to be hooping and hollering if I see Patrick Stewart show up in a wheelchair. Like, I mean, we'll be like, oh, wow, there he is. Like,
yeah. It's like, okay. Yeah. 81.
Yeah. Like,
I get it.
You're beating the dead horse at this point.
Yeah, I get it. So
keep picking them.
Yeah. The one I'm expecting is Sylvie from Loki. I think we're going to see Sylvie because she literally broke everything. We're going to see her.
Yeah.
The one I hope we don't see, I really hope we don't see it. And you might have some contention with me on this. I really hope we don't see Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool.
No, I agree.
It's the wrong time. It's the wrong place.
I am a huge fan of Deadpool. Absolutely love the character. I've read most of his runs. I think he's a nice little breath of fresh air inside of all the serious comic books that they have out there now. So, but that being said, that's what he is. He's a breath of fresh air from all those different comic book movies. You don't want him to be in all of those other movies, especially because you can't really do a Deadpool in PG-13. Like you could, but
it could be a joke that it's PG-13, and that'd be okay, I guess. But then it just becomes annoying. Like, oh, you're beating a dead horse. We get it.
I think if they did want to introduce him, they throw him in a cameo right at the very end in an end credit scene. I think that's the most that I want for him in there. That's the most I want for him inside of that movie. I
could see like all the cameos, everyone leaves, and somebody accidentally leaves a portal open. It's just lingering on like a bathroom or something somewhere. Then the door opens and Deadpool's just like, what the fuck is that? And just quietly walks through. He's like, oh shit, it's the MCU. And he's just like, bye everybody. See you next time.
I'm here now.
He's like, oh shit, I guess the merger went through.
Just pulled a Venom.
Oh shit, guys, I'm like Tom Hardy.
I could see something like that happening, or like maybe if like they do a scene where they like go through all the different multiverses and show them off, like maybe there's one and he's just about to shoot someone in the head, or they take that scene where did he try to kill baby Hitler? I think he tried to kill baby Hitler at the end of Deadpool 2, and like they just kind of have like that zoom by in a grand scheme of things when they're showing off timelines. Like maybe something like that.
What would be funny if they tried to bring in the version from X-Men Origins Wolverine and then Deadpool retroactively just shows up. It's like, no, we're not doing this one. Are you kidding me, guys? This is the one you want? You want this one in the Hulk versus Wolverine movie? No.
No, I could see that. That'd be all right. Have that as the end credit scene. But like, I don't, as much as I love Deadpool, I don't really want him in other people's superhero movies. I want other superheroes in his movies.
I see
I
that.
think that's the way they have to do it. I think the way to make him successful is to do it like that. Because you're not, especially with the Disney brand, you got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like if kids start seeing Deadpool and other movies, they think he's funny, they're going to want to go watch a Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
So I think you just get other superhero movies inside of his movies, and then maybe on a huge team up movie, like they have another Endgame level movie, you bring him in for a little bit of a cameo. He brings out the katanas, slices up Galactus or whatever he's got to do,
Yeah.
and then
Fair
just
enough.
dip out because they really can't get people too attached to him for like the younger people because it's there's some stuff
already,
from those movies that
he's
are
already got his audience, so he's okay.
yeah,
So
and that's exactly it. Is you strap Ryan Reynolds in a red suit somewhere and people are going to go watch him.
yeah, I mean, Red Notice had like the biggest watch ever on Netflix, so
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Was it any good? I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. I'm not gonna watch it.
I'm probably in the same camp as you.
Yeah. Do you have any like final thoughts about the No Way Home? Like overall, what are your thoughts on it? How do you feel about it?
I think for what they were trying to do, they nailed it. I think every single thing they tried in that movie, they managed to succeed in it. I think it was pretty much the ultimate Spider-Man movie. I think it's the end of an era for Spider-Man, which they showed off perfect. It was the perfect cap to a trilogy. I think every single little aspect that was supposed to come into this movie and make it what it was came through and shined through bright. So like,
Fair enough.
I'd probably give it either a 9 or 9.5 out of 10. Like if we're talking MCU movies, I give it a 9.5 to 9 or 9 out of 10.
Okay.
But like if we're actually like rating it as a critical movie, I can agree with your 7 out of 10.
Yeah, right on. Well, I think as a whole, there is a lot of impressive stuff that this film did. Like it made so much of what could have been a flimsy idea in worse hands. It just made it work. And it gave so much redemption to characters that needed it from previous movies, previous installments. And it just showed, guys like Jamie Foxx and Andrew Garfield can do this right when they are given the right script. It showed that even 20 years later, Molina and Dafoe still got some power in their voices. And it just set up, I look at this like the end of a creator's run on a comic book. It did its entire story. Here's the stuff we had with Tony Stark and the Avengers. Here's the Spider-Man dealing with this trauma. And it just sets up a brand new day we can see going forward, where it's like the new status quo is upon us. There's a lot of fun stuff we could play with in there. And to me, as somebody who doesn't read Spider-Man and has never actively been interested in that character, it did justice to what I needed it to. It satisfied me. It was very interesting. And Tom Holland gave one of the best performances of his career to date, not just as Spider-Man, but as an actor.
Yeah.
And I think that's very impressive. So this movie, pretty good, I gotta say. Pretty impressive. So I think that about does it for our in-depth discussion on No Way Home. Zach, is there anything you'd like to plug that you're working on? I know you do a lot of Twitch stuff.
I stream sometimes on Twitch, not all the time, but whenever I get a chance to, I work a fair bit. So the Twitch handle is twitch.tv/cold_Canada. So stop by, maybe drop a follow if you feel like it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, please give us a rating over there. As always, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. You can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. Enjoy.
See you later.